Hey guys, welcome back to the shop with Mr. Vintage. We got our old Ford 2N tractor from somewhere between 1944 and 1947-ish. We bought this tractor for 1,500 bucks. Unfortunately, we kind of got screwed on it. But you know, that happens. That's buying and selling. Before we can put it to work, we got to rebuild the transmission and the hydraulics, a couple little things to address on the engine, but with that, we got to get it stripped down and broken in two. So, quick wave of our magic wrench here. Bibbity, bobbity, boo. All right. Well, if only it were really that easy. But got our hydraulic pump sitting on the bench here. You can see all of this sludge and watery hydraulic fluid and delicious goodness going on there. Here on the top cover, we're going to replace the piston on there. That actually controls your lift arms. Because we got this far into the tractor, it only made sense to do it because frankly the parts are not that expensive for the N-Series tractor. So just going to do it once and hopefully be done for a long time. So going to start by getting this guy cleaned up and start tearing it apart, and we'll show you what we get into. Okay, so we got things kind of sprayed off and cleaned up. First thing I'll do, take these covers off. Pop that control valve out. Take that guy out. Get those broke loose. Oh yeah. Get these guys out of here and get her cleaned up some more. That guy pops out that way. A little bit of galling down in there, but not too bad. And so far the case looks good. Just got to get her cleaned up. The one thing that is worth noting on this is our safety valve actually had come apart, so make sure you get any of the pieces out of there. Okay, so we got that housing pretty well cleaned up, at least got the gasket off from it. These housings are the same yet different, if that makes any sense. The guts inside are the same, however the housing, the castings are different side to side. There is a left and a right. Easy does it. It's important to pay attention to these valves, how they come out, because you need to put them back with the replacement parts in the same order. While we're at it, now that we got the valves out, next thing I'm going to do, my old friend here, Mr. Brake Clean, Cyclo brand. I love the stuff. Cleans up great, dries out like brake clean should, doesn't leave greasy, nasty residue. So I'm going to hose these down and we'll get the new valves in there. Alright, so we got those out, got everything cleaned out, dried up, so on and so on. Got a little bit of hydraulic fluid here, and put a little squirt down in there, kind of work it around. Just a good thing to do. Drop her in. One in. That guy snugged in place. We'll tighten that up when we get it back on the pump body. Okay, so the next step in putting our pump back together, we need this block piece. If you look close here, it's got this ring here that protrudes out. We're also going to take a little bit and just lube everything up. That goes in the square side of our housing like that. Next thing we have to do is our eccentric here. Came out of our blocks over there. I've already taken and cleaned that up. Make sure everything is good and lubed. Because ultimately that is going to ride right there like that, and as that runs back and forth, that's the eccentric that runs our pump pistons back and forth. Okay, so now we're going to get ready to assemble our valves here. Got our piston yokes here, and notice something about these. If you look at the sides, one is kind of a rough cast side in this kit, the other is a little bit smoother finish. We're going to use that smoother finish side. If you look, the pin is slightly off center in the yoke, so if you do it the wrong way, it will not go together. It'll be slightly off center. Get them together like that. These oil delivery tangs here. on the bottom. Make sure that that recess there is facing so that it'll ride on the brass fitting there. Get our gasket here. Get that guy lined up on the dowel. Get our pistons into the bore. Get some bolts started to hold her in place. You got one side done, and get the other side on. Make sure everything's tightened down. Alright, so now that we're pretty well assembled, the next thing that we are going to do here is tighten these caps down. Just do this with a ratchet. Torque specs are not really as much of a thing. I mean, they do exist with the early N series tractor, but not in the way that I'm used to as a professional mechanic. They're typically ranges, which if you think in the time that this tractor was built, your average mechanic would have been using a beam style torque wrench, which is more of a range than anything. So to tighten these down, just remember, tight's tight, too tight's broken. Crisscross if it makes you feel better. Just make sure everything is tight and seated so that you don't have any leaks. Make sure to remember to tighten your spool valves on top. Should be good to go on this one. So the last things we have left to do to our pump before it is quote unquote done is to put our safety valve back in, our overflow valve, whatever you want to call it. Get that guy snugged in there. And then the very last thing to go in is our new control valve. Move that guy up, send her home. Okay, so there's our rebuilt hydraulic pump, new valves, pistons, all the brass parts, valving. Next up we'll show you how to reinstall it in the tractor. Alright, gasket's installed. Sealant is put on the bottom of the housing. It's important to note your control valve goes to the back. This has got to be put on, well, basically one way. Your pressure comes out of the pump right here through a tube and up to your upper covers. So let's get her in. kind of got to work your pump forward to get it on PTO engagement. Get a couple of bolts started in there. Just gonna go finger tight with these first off. Okay, so now we gotta install our PTO shaft. I got my gasket sealer on both surfaces and I've installed the gasket. What we're gonna do here, you gotta get this guy in. Get him bolted in and tightened down. So once our drive shaft, or our PTO shaft is in, then we have to turn it. And the notion behind this is it centers our pump. So once you've done that, now you got to come under here and tighten the bolts. There ain't a lot of stuff on the N-series tractors that require torquing, but apparently this cover is one of them, and the torque spec is between 55 and 60 foot-pounds. So my clicker type torque wrench gave up the ghost, so I'm down here with my dial torque wrench doing this and get these guys torqued up and ready to go. Okay, so we got our top cover reinstalled and hook up our 3-point arms. Not going to bore you with that. The next thing we have to do is to hook up our arms here down to our valve down in the bottom. Once we got that done, put on our side covers, put some fluid in her, and this job is done. Okay, so we have our control piston hooked up to our control, and you're going to have to work in tandem between the drain plug and the 2 inspection covers. Now that that's hooked up, see that guy working down in there. Now we're going to install our 2 inspection covers. Probably a good idea is to install the side that has your PTO control first. That way you can actually make sure that it's seated from the other side and that everything is where it's supposed to be. We're going to get this hammered out and that should nearly finish it. Alright, we got her all back together. Time to do, probably the most crucial final step is put our fluid in it. I'm using VP Racing J20A Plus utility tractor fluid. It confirms to the Ford spec. Let's see what it is here. M2C134/D, which I'm told is the spec you want to conform to from all the Ford forums. But with that, the system takes about 5 gallons. If you got a lot of sludge and garbage in the bottom of your setup because you didn't do all this, then you're gonna probably only take about 4 3/4 gallons because, well, that stuff takes up room. So with that, let's get her filled up. You plug right next to the shifter is your fill. We'll get you a big funnel. Start dumping her in. Guys, that wraps up our hydraulic rebuild tutorial video. I hope it helped you out a little bit, and it was a learning curve for me too, so guess we got to learn on that one together. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment below, really helps us out. Other than that, look forward to seeing you again in the shop real soon.